Shabbat Shalom Lekulam, a wonderful Sabbath morning, a gorgeous, stunning morning. We're so excited to be able to share our morning prayer, our Sabbath prayer, especially because this morning Hannah will become a bar mitzvah for Hannah's family. We've actually really waited for this moment, watching Hannah and Rosie grow up here in the shul. We are thrilled to be celebrating this morning and welcoming the extended family, a warm mazel tov, and especially Hannah's buds. We're so thrilled that you're here. I am going to just gently ask that everybody turned off, of course, all cell phones, any beepers. This is a prayer service, a Sabbath service, and you make up the Minyan, the community that will be welcoming Hannah together with members of our congregation. As each of you reach for a siddur, a prayer book, in front of you or behind you, this is called Mishkan Tfilah, to be distinguished from the big heavy book that says Torah. If you picked up a Torah, put it back, you'll need it later. But let's start with Mishkan Tfilah, with the Siddur, the prayer book. And turning together to page 185, for those young people who may be in a shul, a synagogue for the first time, a gentle guide. In Hebrew, we go from right to left. From right to left, you may experience that as backwards, but I assure you, it's English that's backward, and Hebrew that was the original direction. And later, if you want to know the reason, I can certainly share it with you. 185. I enter this sacred space to voice the longings of my heart in prayer. In sacred company, I offer my love to the Holy One. Join me. I devote myself this morning to psalm and song, study and prayer. May my heart be lifted, may my thoughts be deepened, and may my soul, like the eagle, soar. Siddur is a word that may be familiar to you. It sounds just like Seder, that Passover observance that Hannah does with her family, a Seder on Passover. Seder is an ordering of food so we can order our questions and tell a story. Siddur is an ordering of prayers so that we can open our hearts to the Sacred One. 186, morning prayer, gratitude, not taking for granted this gift of life, this gift of a new day. Modeh ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam. Modeh ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam. So 2 more moments of instruction, and then the instruction will stop. This is more of an invitation for any of the little ones that are blessing us here this morning. You know that your prayers are the most important, so your parents should let you be exactly who you are. And as you're praying this morning, little ones, remind your parents that behind the talitot, the white hanging shawls, there are 2 boxes of soft toys. If any of your children would like those soft toys, the kids look small enough that you can grab one of the boxes and put it close to you. The kids can sit on the ground, they can share. They should be at home with their prayers, as we're thrilled that they're here this morning. You may see that some of the adults in the community are wearing talitot. Some of the adults in the community are wearing kippot. In our community, we believe in informed choice. Each adult will choose how they will observe as a bee mitzvah. Hannah has been studying and she has been experiencing the things that she will be choosing. This morning, she is choveshet kippah, wearing a kippah, as a gentle reminder to say, Da lifnei mi at omedet. Always know that you stand before something bigger than yourself. This morning, Hannah will wrap herself in tzitzit, in the prayer shawl. Each of our prayer shawls are different. Mine this morning is rainbow colored, but what is always the same is that on the 4 corners of each of our garments, there are wraps and wines that equals 613 mitzvot. Hannah is taking responsibility for her legacy, her identity, her Judaism. Hannah is taking responsibility for living a Jewish life. And at this moment, she will be the structure that holds up Jewish life, and she will be supported, comforted, protected with this blessing of Jewish life. Hannah comes forward with Hannah's parents, Eli and Ilana, as they gift their daughter, their child, with tzitzit for the first time. Come here, face your daughter. Come on the outside so that we can, no, right, perfect. You're right here. You come to me. Hannah remembers that she stood on the other side, but I'm going to move. Okay. You come here.
So Hannah, we are so proud of you today. I never got to read from the Torah. I never was given a talit, so I'm very happy and honored and proud of you to give this to you today. Baruch atah Adonai. Eloheinu melech ha'olam. Asher kidshanu. B'mitzvotav. Vitzivanu. Lehitatef. Vatzitzit.
Nice job. So come right up here, okay? Bring your purple cup. Page 191, Hannah reflects on what Hannah believes is the meaning of this moment.
Whoever wrapped in a talit in one's youth will never forget. Take it out of the soft sack, open the folded talit, spread it, kissing the border along its length, sometimes embroidered, sometimes embossed. Afterwards, a great sweep over the head, like the heavens, like a huppah, like a parachute. Afterward, folding it around one's head as if playing hide and seek, and then wrapping the body in it, tight, tight, letting it fold you like a cocoon, and then opening it like the wings for flying.
And why are there stripes and not black-white squares like a chessboard? Because squares are finite, without hope, and stripes come from infinity and go on to infinity, like the runways at the airport, so that angels may land and take off.
When you wrap yourself in a talit, you can never forget coming out of a swimming pool or the sea and being wrapped in a great towel and casting it over one's head and wrapping it tight, tight, and shivering a little and laughing and blessing.
Amen. Page 194. Settle into your physicality, into your body, as we opened with a prayer of gratitude for life. We also don't take for granted this gift of our body having worked enough to bring us here this morning. We read the Hebrew together. Please feel free to reach for the transliteration next to the Hebrew or the English underneath so that you can participate. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher yatzar et ha'adam bechokma, uvaravo nikavim nikavim, chalulim chalulim, galui v'yadua, lifnei chisei chivodecha, she'im yipatech echad mehem, o yisatem echad mehem, אי אפשר להתקיים ולעמוד לפניך. אתה אדוני רופא כל בשר ומפליא לעשות. Take a breath in and breathe out. The Kabbalists teach us that the mystics teach us that every time you breathe in, you welcome from the source of creation. And every time you breathe out, You are determining who you're choosing to be at that moment. 196. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorahi. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorahi. Elohai neshama shenatata bi Elohai neshama shenatata bi Baruch ata Adonai asher biyado nefesh kol chai v'ruach kol basar ish. Amen. 198, Birkot HaShachar, the sun comes up, and it is a Jewish tradition to discern the miracles around us, to discern the blessings. The Israel Baal Shem Tov says the world is filled with signs and miracles, but we get in the habit. We think we're too busy or we think we're too important. We get in the habit of closing our eyes and failing to see, to experience, to express gratitude for the miracles. As Hannah leads together with Alexandra and myself, we invite you to join us, and we will close each bayit, each paragraph, with the blue words as a chatimah written in the margin of the page. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lasech bivina lehavchin bein yom uvein laila for awakening. Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam
Pokeach Ivrim for vision. Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam
Matir Asurim for the ability to stretch. Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam
Zokev Kifufim for rising to the new day. 200.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam
Roka haaretz al hamayim for firm earth to stand upon. Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam
Hamechin mitzadei gaver for the gift of motion. Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam
Malbish arumim for clothing the body. Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam
Hanotein la'ya'ef koach for renewed enthusiasm for life. Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam
Hama'avir sheina me'enai utnuma me'af apai for reawakening. Amen. On page 200, we pray responsively with Hannah.
I am a Jew. This one? Oh, this. As I awaken, let this be my thought. May my day be filled with acts of loving kindness. Let me be drawn to learning and discernment, and let my actions be shaped by mitzvot.
Keep me from iniquity, disgrace, and sin. May I not be overwhelmed by temptation or despair.
Distance me from evil people and false friends. Let me cultivate a life of the goodness.
May my hands reach out in kindness, and I will serve the source through acts of righteousness.
Today and every day, may I merit your mercy by living my life with compassion and love.
Holy One of blessing, draw me to your words. Teach me the art of sacred living. Baruch atah Adonai, hamelamed chasadim tovim, le'amo Yisrael. 202. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Sha'asani b'tselem Elohim, for being in the image of the divine. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Sha'asani b'chorin, for being a free person. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Sha'asani Yisrael, for being a Jew. Amen. Baruch
atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam,
Ozer Yisrael b'gvura, for purpose. Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam,
Oter Yisrael b'tifaraha, for harmony. Amen. Page 204. Already Hannah has fulfilled one mitzvah. She has put the talit on herself. She has taken responsibility for the tzitzit, for this way of life. Each and every day that Hannah and I studied together, we intentioned setting an intention of this responsibility with this blessing, yet a second of the 613 mitzvot, 204. Baruch
atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam,
asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Amen. So Rosie, you are next in the family. Where's Rosie? Great. So as Rosie makes Rosie's way back up here, I will just share with you that Birkot HaShachar, the blessings of the sun, were all about gratitude and mystery and miracles and noticing. The final of Birkot HaShachar that Hannah so beautifully presented was one that is about gratitude, but moves us into responsibility. Gratitude for Torah with the understanding that la'asok b'divrei Torah is not always easy, Hannah. It's also filled with a lot of responsibility. As Rosie makes Rosie's way up onto the bima, we will be focusing on what some of those Jewish responsibilities are. Rosie doesn't wait till Rosie becomes bar mitzvah to focus on living a Jewish life. And as Rosie and I'd be a real good person in the Congress, filibustering, right? As Rosie and I present to you just a handful of these 613 mitzvot. And we'll come back to them in just one moment. Page 209. I find by experience, not by reasoning, but by my own discovery, that the source is near me, and I can be near the source at all times. I cannot explain it, but I am as sure of my experience as I am of the fact that I live and love. I cannot explain it, but I know that I know the source in the same way that I know that sense of wonder.
These are things that are limitless, of which a person enjoys the fruit of the world, while the principle remains in the world to come.
Elu divarim sha'ein lahem shi'or, she'adam ochel peirotehem ba'olam hazeh, va'keren kayemet lo la'olam haba.
They are honoring one's father and mother,
Ve'elu hein kibud av va'em,
engaging in deeds of compassion,
ugemilut chasadim,
arriving early for study morning and evening,
V'hashkamat Beit HaMidrash shacharit ve'aravit,
dealing graciously with guests,
V'achnasat orachim,
visiting the sick,
Uvikor cholim,
providing for a wedding couple,
V'achnasat kala,
accompanying the dead for burial,
Ulvayat hamet,
being devoted in prayer,
V'iyun tfilah,
and making peace among people.
V'hava'at shalom ben adam l'chavero.
But the study of Torah encompasses them all.
V'talmud Torah keneged kulam. Amen. Esher kochech, much strength. Page 215. Happy are they, filled are they, who have a sense of what it means to stop and be mindful, who have a sense of what it means to come into a sacred space together and express amazement, radical yirah, and gratitude. Ashrei Yoshvei beitecha, od yehalucha, od yehalucha, Ashrei Od Yehalucha. 218, Psalm 150. Finding a sense of beauty in every aspect of the world. Hallelujah, bekodsho, hallelujah, berki ya'uzo, hallelujah, bikurotav, hallelujah, kerov kulo, kol haneshama tehalleluya, hallelujah, 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 beteka shofar, hallelujah, benetel vechinor, hallelujah, kivurot kol, hallelujah, beminim ve'ugav, kol haneshama tehalleluya, hallelujah, 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 betziltzalei shama, hallelujah, betziltzalei tu'ah, kol neshama tehalleluya, hallelujah, hallelujah, kol haneshama tehalleluya, hallelujah. 225, you have my attention, which is a tenderness beyond what I may say, and I have your constancy to something beyond myself. The force of your commitment charges us. We live in the sweep of it, taking courage, one for the other. On the facing page 224, the ancient Aramaic words of our people resonate through Hannah's heart, through Hannah's very being, through Hannah's leadership. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabba ve'alma divrach irutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala uvizman kariv ve'immeru amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevorach le'olam ul'almei omaya yitbarach yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnasei v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudesha berichu le'elam im kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiram be'alma ve'immeru amen. 225 in the middle of the page, Hannah prays responsively with the congregation.
What makes a fire burn is the space between the logs, a breathing space. Too much of a good thing. Too many logs, packed in too tight, can douse the flames almost as surely as a pail of water would.
So building fires requires attention to the spaces in between as much as to the wood.
When we are able to build open spaces in the same way we have learned to pile on logs, then we can come to see how it is fuel, and the absence of fuel together that makes the fire possible.
We only need to lay a log lightly from time to time. A fire grows simply because the space is there, with openings in which the flame that knows just how it wants to burn can find its way. 226. It is our tradition when we call one another into formal worship to stand and become fully part of our prayer, to swivel and turn eastward as our people in every corner of the world are facing Yerushalayim. That is a metaphor for our yearning for peace, for our pursuing peace, for our insistence on peace. 226. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. La 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 228. In our morning prayer, at this juncture, we turn our hearts toward the miracle of nature. We believe that the natural world, this gift for which we are merely stewards passing through, is truly that, a gift that we are borrowing. When we focus our prayers on it, so too do we focus our responsibility of stewardship that will make possible this miraculous gift for the future. Together, Baruch Ata Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, yotzer or uvarei choshech, oseh shalom uvarei et hakol, hameir la'aretz v'ledarim aleha berachamim, uvtuvo mechadesh bechol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reishit. Ma rabu ma'asecha Adonai, kulam bechokma asita mal'a haaretz kinyanecha. Titbarach Adonai Eloheinu al shevach ma'aseh yadecha ve'al me'orei or she'asita yifa'arucha selah. Or chadash al Tzion ta'ir, or chadash al Tzion ta'ir, or chadash al Tzion ta'ir, or chadash al Tzion ta'ir. V'nizke chulanu meheira le'oro. V'nizke chulanu meheira le'oro. Baruch atah Adonai yotzer ha'me'oro. 231. Love your neighbor as yourself, you said, and light blinded we saw that inner and outer worlds are one as you are one. You spoke and we wrote. We reached for you down the centuries. Your light, moving before us as we climbed, fell back and climbed again. Your Sinai of life on the facing page in the middle. V'ha'ereinu b'toratecha v'dahabek libeinu b'mitzvotecha v'yached levaveinu le'ahava u'li'ira et shemecha v'lo nevosh v'lo nikalem v'lo Hagadol hanora batachnu nagila v'nismicha v'yeshuatecha. Gather us in peace from the four corners of the earth and lead us upright to our land. For you, Hamakor, work wonders. You chose us truly. You drew us near to your great name, that we might acknowledge you, declaring you one in love. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher be'amo Yisrael, be'ahava. Amen. Standing as a congregation, 232, we affirm our faith. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem 234. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha uv'chol nafshecha uv'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadavarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta b'ham v'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha b'derech uv'sholchecha uv'kumecha uv'shartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu totafot bein einecha וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. 236. Adonai spoke to Moses as follows. Speak to the Israelite people and instruct them to make for themselves tzitzit on the corners of their garments throughout the ages. Let them attach a cord of blue to the tzitzit at each corner. That shall be your tzitzit. Look at it and recall all of the commandments of Adonai and observe them, so that you do not follow your heart and your eyes in your lustful urges. Leman tizkeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kedoshim le'Elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim lehiot lachem le'Elohim ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem Emet. 241. At the bottom of the page, our teacher, Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, says, it's not enough to be concerned for the life to come. Our immediate concern must be with justice and compassion in life here and now, with human dignity, welfare, and security. On the facing page,
Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Nora tehilot osef ele, nora tehilot osef ele. Shira chadasha, shibchu ge'olim l'shimcha, al sfat hayam, yachad kulam hodu ve'imlichu ve'ameru Adonai imloch, Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed. Tzor Yisrael, Kuma ve'ezrat Yisrael, uvtechen humecha, Yehuda ve'Yisrael. Go'aleinu Adonai tzvaot shemo, Kedosh Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai, Yisrael.
So we are about to enter into Tfilat Amidah, which is considered the heart of the morning prayer. At this time, I want to just give a gentle reminder to those people who joined us this morning and will continue praying with their feet. I see that one person has already made their way outside, and our Melanie is standing in the back and will be joining anyone who will take these prayers into protest on the Academy Green. I know many of you will be staying with the family, but the family, Hannah and I, wanted to give permission to members of the congregation this one Shabbat to continue praying with their feet, to make a loud and clear statement that Tikkun Olam of CEHV stands up for all people to have agency over their own choices, their own bodies, that is how we follow Jewish prayer, Jewish law, and the spirit of what this country stands for. So I know somebody's outside, and our prayers are with you. The rest of us continue now for a second time, turning toward Yerushalayim, a second time focusing our intentionality on peace, on our responsibility to be Rodfei Shalom, pursuers of peace, the heart of prayer, connecting with our people everywhere. 242.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avoteinu ve'Imoteinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor ve'Hanora El Elyon Gomer Chasadim Tovim V'Konei HaKol V'Zocher Chasei Avot V'Imahot U'Mevi Geula Livnei V'neihem Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava Melech Ozer Moshiach U'Magen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham Bezrat Sarah
246.
Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mechayei HaKol Atah Rav Lehoshia Mori Atal Mechalkel Chayim Bechesed Mechayei Metim Berachamim Rabim Somech Noflim Verofeh Cholim Umatir Asurim Umkayem Emunato Lishenei Afar Micha Mocha Baal Gevurot Umido Melach Melech Memit Umechayeh Umatzmiach Yeshua V'ne'eman ata l'chayot meitim Baruch atah Adonai Mechayeh
Hametiv.
HaKol.
248 for all that we consider kadosh.
נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב היה נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך כל הארץ, כבודו. אדיר, אדירנו, אדוני, אדוננו, מאדיר שמך בכל הארץ. ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו, הוא מלכנו, הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו, ברחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון, לדור ודור. Hallelujah.
A reminder that Lador Vador is about transmitting this legacy from generation to generation.
We are gifts and we are blessings. We are history in song. We are hope and we are healing. We are learning to be strong. We are words and we are stories. We are pictures of the past. We are carriers of wisdom, not the first and not the last. Lador vador nagigolacha. Lador vador, we protect this chain from generation to generation. Lador vador, these lips will praise your name. Looking back on the journey that we carry in our hearts, from the shadow of the mountain to the waters that would part. We are blessed and we are holy. We are children of your way, and the words that bring us meaning, we will have the strength to say. Lador vador nagigolacha. Lador vador, we protect this chain from generation to generation. Lador vador, these lips will praise your name. Lador vador nagigolacha. Lador vador, we protect this chain from generation to generation. Lador vador, these lips will praise your name.
So part of this legacy from generation to generation is to be happy, to love your tradition, page 250, Yismechu b'malachutecha. We believe that allowing Shabbat to be your compass enables you to deepen and love this legacy.
יסמכו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת. יסמכו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת. מקדשי שביעית שבת, כולם ישבעו ויתנו לטובך שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת. והשביעי רצית בו וקידשתו שבת. חמדת ימים אותו תורת השבת. זכר למעשה בראשית שבת. זכר למעשה בראשית שבת. יאי לי לי יאי לי 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 יאי לי יאי לי יאי לי יאי לי 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 יאי לי
in front, behind. That's what you're doing. Okay, guys, now listen to my instructions. Here we go. First, it's a Mayim step. Again, what I said. Right foot in front, step left, and behind, step left. Here we go, guys. Coming through. Join us. Go right, 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 and turn. And right. Go right. Turn from the top of my step. Here we go. Move in and out, and out. It's a Mayan step and then in. Here we go. Front, behind. Move in and back. We remain standing as you find your way back to your seats. We remain standing as you are able, if you are able. Our tradition teaches us there are times to pray together, hearing our voices together. Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav says that if one person is praying and the person next to them can't pray, but you pray loud enough, you'll lift their voice, their heart, their desire to pray. together with yours, but there's also a time to go inward. The traditional tefillah continues through page 260. Each of us praying belachash in a whisper, finding the private prayer that we offer this morning. Finding your way back to your seats when you have completed your prayer. The source who makes peace on heaven, please make us courageous enough to insist upon peace here on earth.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael.
The moment we have been building up to Tekes Hotzeat Sefer Torah, the special ceremony for bringing forth this Torah from which Hannah will read and from which Hannah struggled with, as all of Yisrael must, to bring forth this Bi Mitzvah day and Hannah's Bi Mitzvah message, 362.
Ein kamocha va'Elohim Adonai, ve'ein kema'asecha, malchutecha malchut kol olamim, umemshaltecha bechol dor v'dor. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, Adonai oz le'amo yitein, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. 364. Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, u'devar Adonai meYerushalayim. 366. Nalakum, please rise. Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah, Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah, Le'amo Yisrael, V'Kedushato.
So at this moment, I am going to ask that Eli and Ilana, Hannah's parents, Pat and Mary Claire, Hannah's grandmothers, come forward for this special moment of transferring this Torah from generation to generation. So this is a moment. This is a moment in time. And Hannah, our tradition teaches us that you've already done this. I don't mean in rehearsals with your amazing tutor, Franny, or with me. I mean, you've done this. You were there at Sinai when thousands of years ago, Moses went up to the top of Sinai and received this Torah from the source and brought it back to the people. We say that all people were there, Hannah, all Jews that ever were, and all Jews that ever will be. But like most things that you're told, it's usually helpful to experience them in order to have that experience. There's a beautiful midrash that speaks to this moment that says, the moment that the source, that God wanted to give Torah to Yisrael, God turned to Yisrael and said, you know, I'd like to give you this Torah, but you have to give me something. You have to do something. Give me an arevut. Give me a guarantee that you're worthy of this Torah. And Am Yisrael imagined themselves quite smart and put forth Avotenu ve'imotenu that we prayed about in the Amidah. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, our ancestors. And God looked and God said, this is good, but not good enough. So a second time, Am Yisrael was sent back to get an arevut for the source, for God, for HaShekhinah. And the people began to wisen. They said to themselves, it's not enough to follow laws. Anyone can follow laws. Actually, we have to get to the ikar, to the essence of the laws, to the values, to the integrity. Let's put the Nevi'im, the prophets, forward, because they were the ones who said, Don't do empty practice for me. No. I need it to be from your kishkas, from your gut. And God looked and God said, yes, very good. But, Hannah, still not good enough. And then Eli and Ilana, they knew what to do. They stepped forward. And they turned to the people and they turned to the source and they said, we put Hannah forward as our evut for all of the people. And b'schutech, because of you, Hannah, God looked and God said, Hannah is a good enough guarantor. At this moment, it's a bit of a heavy responsibility. All of the generations in front of you. You look down and you see your Grammys, and you actually see their parents and their grandparents and their great-grandparents all the way back to the moment when Moses gave Torah. And now they are going to pass this back to you, and you are going to be imagining what comes after you. Whatever children you choose to bring into the world, if you do, grandchildren, whatever work you choose to bring into the world, you are going to be the link of these values that you're receiving today, Hannah. And you know, like in a chain link fence, if one link is broken, then the chain doesn't work. So today, as this family passes the Torah to you, you hold it with all of your strength. You hold it with all of your amazing wisdom. You hold it with all of your questions. And you hold it with all of your commitment to find a way to walk with grace and power, challenges, and being part of your community. Just put your hands up on the Torah. Perfect. That's it. Perfect. Fantastic. Fantastic. You got it. Eli? I got it. Right hand under. Got it? Okay. Got it. You're good. Perfect. No, don't go down.
Sorry, my fault.
We pray responsively together with Hannah.
Ma Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu,
Kadosh Shemo, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Turn and face the ark. Gadlu Adonai iti, uneromema Shemo yachdav. Let me know. Come with me. Now you guys sit down.
Adonai hagedula v'hagevura v'hatiferet v'hanetzach v'hahod ki hu b'shamayim u'va'aretz ki hu b'shamayim u'va'aretz lecha Adonai hamelacha v'hamitnaseh lechol nerosh al shosha devarim al shosha devarim al shosha devarim ha'olam omed al shosha devarim al shosha devarim al shosha devarim ha'olam omed al haTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim al haTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim yai lai 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 lai
Shabbat Shalom. Now you can put the Siddur under and reach for a Torah. There may not be enough, and we won't put it on the floor, though. We'll put it, thank you, perfect. We put it into the little book holder. If you don't have enough Sifrei Torah, enough Torahs, then a couple of members of my congregation will come forward and just find a few and get it around to folks. That's you, Shep. That's you, Jack. That's you, Talia. Just find some Torahs and pass it to people. Fantastic. So, folks, we are going to be reading from today Parshat Emor. In a traditional Shabbat morning, the way that I grew up, and actually the way I believe that Alana grew up, you would hear 7 aliyot and maftir. In our Reform congregation, we want to make sure we have room for dancing and room for parents' blessings. And so what we'll be doing is reading 3 aliyot, which means that we followed law, but we haven't necessarily followed tradition. We're fulfilling the responsibility, but not necessarily traditional. We'll be reading from the very end of Parshat Emor, beginning with Leviticus, chapter 24, beginning with verse 13. You can find it on page 829. 829. Can you find 829 in here? And my first reader is going to be Hannah's mother, Ilana. Come on up. So this is so like us. Hannah has 2 yachts. Here, this picture's on. This is amazing. And for the honor of the Aliyah, Hannah, put your hand here, sweetie. That just means she's going to have to read again. Hold on. For the honor of the Aliyah, it's my thrill to invite the 2 grandmothers, Pat and Mary Claire. Na la'amod chaya Esther mi beit Avraham v'Sarah, Roger ve'Elinor, le'aliyah harishona. Okay, you guys ready? Okay. Baruch et Adonai Borach. Baruch Adonai Hamborach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Amrach leolam va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai
Eloheinu melech haolam.
asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Take it off. 829.
Amen. V'yedaber Adonai el Moshe lemor. Chotzei et hamikalel el michutz lemachaneh v'samchu chol hashomim et yedehem al rosho v'ragmu oto chol ha'eda v'el b'nei Yisrael tedeber lemor ish ki yikalel Elohav v'nashach
Sachet oh. It's amazing. Amazing.
Baruch atah Adonai
Eloheinu melech haolam.
asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam natan
V'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen. Grandmothers to the other side, please. Fantastic. For the, and you go on over here. For the second Aliyah, the privilege of reading is our Franny Silverman, who is not only a member of the community, but first and foremost, especially Hannah's friend and Hannah's tutor, and a family friend of Ilana and Eli. It is such a privilege. As Franny continues, you should look on page 830. It's chapter 24, verse 17. For the honor of the Aliyah, I ask Eli to join Ilana. Nala amod chaya brucha mi beit Moshe v'chaya Esther le'aliyah hashenit.
Baruch atah.
Baruch
Baruch et Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher bachar banu mikol ha'omim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen.
Amen. ואיש כי יכה כל נפש אדם מות יומת ומכה נפש בהמה ישלמנה נפש תחת נפש ואיש כי ייתן מום בעמיתו כאשר עשה כן יעשה לו.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
I'm sure it's mine. Perfect. That was amazing. Thank you.
Did we go over there, right?
And so, no, you come over here to your child. Grandmas, you get to sit, Franny? Yes, perfect. And Eli, can you go to the other side so that you are on two sides of your child? Before we reach the third, she actually knows exactly where it is. Watch this. Show us where it is. Yeah. Do me a favor, put this on so it's not making noise. Before we do this, hon, look at me. We stop for a moment. And this is our opportunity. Franny's going to hand me the green envelope here. For us to focus on people in our community who have challenges of body and of spirit, people who need our prayers. We send the prayers and the gifts that we're accumulating this morning to others. As I begin to say the prayer, you'll notice that I pause and I add names that members of my congregation have shared with me. After that, I'll look up to you, and when your eyes meet mine, if you would like to add a name, please do so in a voice that we can hear, so that we too can hold your loved ones, your friends, members of the community who need prayers this morning for healing. Misheberach Avotenu ve'imotenu Avraham, Yitzchak ve'Yakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel ve'Leah, hu yivarech et acholim, Susan Bash, Arnie Zappel, Paul Tubin, Amelia Byers, Phyllis Fillmore, Ilona Johnson, Joyce Krasno, Mary Lestrange, Ken Lyjak, Steffi Morrison, Errol Nadler, Alicia Okram, Elaine Trott, Lauren Petties,
Hakan Dueker Bracey.
Harriet Barton, Ron Hall. Jane Todd. Anne Irving. Richard, Aaron Gray, Carol Gray, Michelle Gray. Julia Gilbert. Catherine Hyatt. Tracy Ann Haberger.
David Rosenberg.
Peter Robert.
Claude Schleuderer.
HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yimalei Rachamim Aleihem Lachlimam U'Larafotam U'Lachzikam Vayishlach Lahem Meira Refuah Shlema Min HaShamayim Refuat HaNefesh U'Refuat HaGuf Hashteh Ba'agalav Isman Kariv V'nomar Amen. Nala Amod Nala Amod Nala Amod Biha Mitzvah Miriam Chen Mi Beit Chaya Brucha Ve'eli Lama Haftir. Perfect. Okay, got it. Pull it back. Put your hands on the wood.
Baruch,
Baruch
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai
Eloheinu melech haolam.
asher bachar banu mikol ahamin v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Umakeh behema yishamena. Umakeh adam yumat. Mishpat ehad yihye lahem. Kager kazrat yihi ki ani Adonai Elohehem. Vayidaber Moshe el bnei Yisrael vayotziu et hamekalel el mihutz lamahaneh vayirgemu oto afem uvnei Yisrael asu kasher tziva Adonai
Et Moshe. Rosie, look at me. Baruch
Ata Adonai
Baruch Ata Adonai
Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam
Asher Natan Lanu Torat Emet
v'heyolam nata b'toheinu. Baruch Ata Adonai noten
HaTorah.
haTorah.
Amen. So Franny, I'm going to try and protect you and not the parents. Give me the covering first. Just the white covering. Thank you. And then I'm going to suggest that you take cover also, the Torah, and you get to stay. No, you stay right with your daughter. And so now we have this amazing tradition that the family showers Hannah with sweetness, gently, overhand, gently, underhand, gently, showering Hannah with love. No. Love and kisses. Family, and you get to shower Hannah with singing. Go, family. Singing top, mazel tov, singing top, dancing top, mazel tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, singing top, you get to collect as much candy as you can eat, and that's the beginning of the day's celebration. If you would stand with Eli, and if you would turn to me, and turn and face, I want you to have your child's back. There we go. Come on nice and close. So, Hannah, amazing, and we mark this moment first with me giving you a blessing for how you moved through this responsibility, okay? Mi sheberach avotenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov ve'imotenu Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah hu yivarech et Miriam Chen mi beit chaya brucha va'eli asher alta hayom lichvod hamakom v'lichvod haTorah v'hamitzvah yi Elohim imah בימים הבאים, כאשר היה עמה מיום היוולדה ועד הנה, יהי רצון אלוהים לגדליה בבריאות הגוף והנפש, בתבונת ובענוות חן, באהבת הבריות ובאהבת תורה, ותמצא חן ושכל טוב בעיני אלוהים ואדם, יראו הוריו וישמחו, וקרוביה יעלוזו ונאמר Amen. I know you understood every word. May the one who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless you, Miriam Chen, from the house of Chaya Brocha and Eli, who has risen today for the honor of the omnipresent, for the honor of Torah and of mitzvah. May the source's presence fill your life, Hannah. Sorry, I did it in Hebrew, Hannah. Just as the source has been with you, the life force and the joy has been with you from the very moment of your birth, may you continue to grow in health of body, Hannah, and of spirit, in wisdom, in graciousness, in humility, with love of others and love of your tradition of Torah and of holy and good deeds. May you, Hannah, find favor and distinction in the eyes of HaShekhinah and on the eyes of all other people throughout the world. And we say, Amen.
Amen.
So I don't take these moments for granted. So with Hannah's parents, I want to ask the family to take a moment and to just notice the gift of life, Shehechianu, that was given you, the goodness that this life has been sustained and is thriving, and enabling this family to reach this amazing moment of joy. The Shehechianu is on page 648 for those who would like to follow.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'hihianu b'zman hazeh.
To you, your adult child, so you can congratulate this Hannah. That's all right. You guys can sit down. Now you're going to learn something about Judaism. You think she's done, but the way it goes is as soon as you have this privilege, then there's more. Hannah knows. She just whispered it to me. So for this privilege of Hagba and Glila, I ask Henry Downs to come forward with John Robbins. Nala Amod Hagba Vaglila. And Hazel Down. I'm sorry, I didn't know you were here. Nala Kum. Please rise. You're going to get them all the stuff. Can you move over a teeny bit so I can lift this?
וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל על פי אדוני ביד משה. תורה, 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 ציווה לנו משה. תורה, 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 תורה. Melech Yisrael, Chai Chai V'Kayam, David Melech Yisrael, Chai Chai V'Kayam.
At this time, I ask Rosie, Isaiah, and Shana to come forward as they open the Aron HaKodesh, page 374, up onto the bima, up we go. Yehallelu et Shem Adonai,
Ki niskav shemo le'ado. Hodol erech v'shayim, vayarem kerem le'amo, tzihila lechol Chasidav livnei Yisrael am kirovo. Hallelujah, hallelujah.
Tov natati lachem torati al ta'azovu. Behold, I have given you a good teaching. Take it. Do not forsake it. Make it yours.
Eitz chayim hi lemachazikim ba v'tomcheha meushar deracheha darchei nom v'chol netivotecha shalom. Hashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva Chadish, Chadish Yameinu, Chadish Yameinu
You're great. Stay here. Please be seated. So now that Hannah has so magnificently read Torah, it is our responsibility to move the congregation to a study of Haftarah. This is from the prophets. Hannah's Haftarah is from Ezekiel chapter 44. We'll be reading 23 through 28 on page 847 of your Torah book. On 847 of your Torah book, Hannah will open with the blessing, and then Hannah and I will continue with the Haftarah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar b'nevi'im tovim v'ratzav v'divreihem hana'emarim behemet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'Torah Moshe avdo v'Yisrael amo unviviei ha'emet v'tzedek.
Amen. Ve'et ami yoru ben kodesh lechol uven tahamei l'tahor yodi'um.
They are to teach my people the difference between the holy and the common, and let them know how to tell the pure from the impure.
Ve'al riv hema yamdu lemishpat b'mishpatai yishpatu vet toratai vet chukotai b'chol mo'adai yishmoru vet shabtotai yikadeshu.
When there are disputes, they are to be the judges, and in judging they are to follow my laws of justice. On all my religious festivals they are to carry out my teachings and my laws, and they are to keep my Sabbaths holy.
Ve'el meit adam lo yavo letom ki im la'av ul'em uvein ulvat le'ach ulachot asher lo hayta le'ish yitama'u.
They are not to make themselves impure by coming into contact with a dead body, except in the case of a mother or father, a son or daughter, a brother or an unmarried sister.
Ve'acharei tohorato shivat yamim yisperu lo.
After a priest has made himself pure, 7 days are to be counted off for him.
Uvyom bo el hakodesh el hechatzer hapnimit l'sharet bakodesh yakriv chatato neum Adonai Elohim.
On the day when he returns to the inner courtyard to serve in the sanctuary, he must offer his purgation offering, says the sovereign God.
Ve'haita lahem lenachala ani nachalatam va'achuza lo titnu lahem b'Yisrael ani achuzatam.
This is to be their inheritance. I am their inheritance. You are to give them no property in Israel. I am their property.
So you might imagine that now I'd be telling her, Hannah, you're done. But that's not the way it goes here. So Hannah studied with Hannah's teachers, several of whom are in the room today. So that's amazing to see. And specifically, Hannah's tutor, Franny, who you heard read one of the 3 aliyot. And then Hannah and I had the privilege of sitting and studying Hannah's portion. And we ask our Bar Mitzvah students to be able to grapple with the meaning of the text, with the meaning of becoming a Bar Mitzvah, not just with rote learning, but with deepening understandings. Hannah becomes the adult teacher this morning, delivering Hannah's drasha, Hannah's teaching.
I never did the blessing after the Haftarah.
Oh, Hannah's right. So it's always good to correct your rabbis. And so before we go ahead, we're going to close the blessing after the Haftarah. And I knew it. I just was testing to see if you were paying attention. Thank you, actually. Thank you for correcting me. You got it?
What's the tune again?
And now I threw you, right?
What's the tune? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam tzor kol halamin tzaddik b'chol hadarot ha'el ha'ne'eman ha'omer ve'oseh hamdeber u'mkayeh shekol devarak emet v'tzedek. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, rock of all creation, righteous one of all generations, the faithful God whose word is deed, and whose every command is just and true. For the Torah, for the privilege of worship, for the prophets, and for this Shabbat that you, Adonai, our God, have given us, for holiness and rest, for honor and glory, we thank and bless you. May your name be blessed forever by every living being. Praise to you, Adonai, for the Sabbath and its holiness.
Amen.
Okay. In my Torah portion called Emor, it was about the rules that God handed to Moses for the Jewish people. There were 3 main parts. First, it talked about the laws for the priests and temple services. Second, it talked about, in great detail, about the rituals and holidays that we do as Jewish people that we need to honor. Finally, it told us about the rules that were for governing punishments and the need for an eye, tooth for a tooth. Writing this was really hard for me, partly because I procrastinate a lot, but also because this portion talks all about the Torah, perceives what the Torah perceives as important rules, or for how to be Jewish, but most of these rules didn't make sense to me and didn't feel right, and if you read them literally, they don't speak to my Judaism or my community. For example, this part, he, the high priest, may marry only a woman who is a virgin. A widow, a divorced woman, or anyone who's been sexually assaulted, such he may not marry. All throughout history, women have been expected to act a certain way. And while men have not had to do this. So in this specific law, it feels like people just assume that we're going to be, it assumes that men can essentially just have rules, but anyway, the rules aren't okay, and they're not fair or right. It does not make it okay today to target women who have been divorced, widows, or are not virgins. Men were allowed to do whatever they wanted, and a lot of this is still true to this day. While I'm on the subject of messed up laws, here's another one. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. This just essentially means that when you do something bad that you shouldn't have done, and that breaks the law, that thing that you did happens back to you in full force. Honestly, I do get the notion that people who do bad stuff should be punished, but I don't think it's a smart move in practice. And as I've always been told, 2 wrongs do not make it right. Nor does it give you closure or healing. It's just more hurt and bloodshed. Maybe you want to know why the person who hurt you did what they did. Maybe in ancient times they didn't have therapy, but maybe talking with them would be helpful. Talking things out can move towards some kind of healing, and that would never be possible if the person who did the crime was dead. Why then does the Torah put forward these types of laws? And how am I supposed to understand these? My mom and I talked about this. Here's what we came to. The Torah has all kinds of things we wouldn't agree with now, but underneath it all, there are lessons that we can apply to these stories and to make meanings. We do not, in fact, we should not take them literally. For example, Rabbi Yael and I shared with me that in my portion, the Torah was just trying to create a moral code of living for Jews. And second, the Torah wanted individuals to be accountable for their behavior. Rabbi suggests that an eye for an eye was never intended to mean that if you took my eye or my life, that your eye or your life would be taken. Instead, it means that if I harmed you, I would have to be held accountable for the harm I did. So a different way to look at this whole thing is that you don't have to take all of it word for word, but it's more about having a moral code. I like this thinking of Parshat and more better. It's not about the specific rules, but about the moral code. But if that's how I think of it, my moral code makes me want to fight against injustice, like how women are treated in our society and the criminal justice system. Like in the US, punishment gets applied unequally. People with wealth are frequently above the law, while people without means become victim of the law. Recently, in the past few years, with the movement for Black Lives, shows us that the justice system is biased based on skin color and is unbalanced against people who aren't white. The US makes up 25% of the world's prison population, and yet we only make up 5% of the world's total population, which is really concerning. White people and or rich people are more likely to get off with shorter or no prison sentences than white people with less money, or just people with less money. Having a sense of justice is a big part of being Jewish to me. As the famous Rabbi Hillel said, "If I am not for myself, who will be for me? If I am only for myself, what am I? And if not now, when?" Justice is about caring for ourselves and others. So for me, my portion and more teaches me to speak out. And as a soon-to-be 13-year-old, I might wonder, how does my voice make a difference? I believe it does, so speak, people, speak. Becoming a bar mitzvah has been a crazy experience full of studying, singing, and learning how to be better at reading Hebrew with food breaks. I have to say that while in the beginning of this, I just thought this was a waste of time and I only did to get a phone, which doesn't work that well, I did learn a lot. And while I may not like it, I do have a newfound respect for Judaism and everything the Jews have gone through to get to safety. People hear about all the horrible things Jews went through to get here, but they're like, oh, it was in the past, why does it matter now? Well, the past is repeating itself, so we have to keep learning and telling and being proud of our ancestors and share their stories and our stories. To me, being Jewish means having responsibilities, a lot of other stuff to do, but mainly being proud of your past, and my ancestors. Not the struggles of my Jewish ancestors, but all of them. So I assume you're probably all bored of hearing me talk, but this is the last thing I promise. There are so many different people I have to thank for this, so I'll start off with the obvious ones. My mom and my dad for being so supportive and helping me out, although mainly it was my mom, but still. My sister for being there, so thanks, Rosie. I see that shocked look, but thanks. Thank you, Franny, for helping me learn and dealing with me and my cats. To Kate, who, while she isn't here, can't thank you enough for everything. To my Grammy, thank you for coming up and helping me out all my life. To my Grams for just coming all this way up and helping us get ready for everything. To my friends, so happy you could come. To Lily, Edie, and Nora Hines, 2 of them aren't here, but thanks for being sort of sisters for most of my life. To the Robbins family for coming. I know Zadie is looking down happily that you're here. Rabbi, thank you for dealing with my attention issues. To Morakara for being so helpful with all the party planning and everything. To Franny for helping me learn all of my blessings. I already said, but still. To Sean and Isaiah, I hope your finger feels better, Isaiah. And so last but not least, thank you everybody for coming. And that's my speech. Thank you.
So, I am very proud of you. You filled this place with your special you, and always be exactly who you are, that incredible Hannah, as you unfold into whom you continue to become. And part of that I recognize is, as you shared with us, to lift up your voice. And I'm going to say to you here, and I don't know how much you'll remember of things for today or how many of the things that I say you'll remember. If you remember any one of them, I'd be happy. So the first one I'm going to say to you is challenging your tradition, questioning is part of being Jewish. Bring them on. Bring on those hard questions. That's what you should do. And you do, boldly and courageously, and you should continue always to question. And sometimes things that get said when you're 13, or things that you do when you're 13, don't make a lot of sense. But maybe when you're 18, or when you're 21, or when you're 28, maybe as you continue to find your way, Hannah, your footing in this journey, some of these pieces will make a new place in your heart, and you'll hear them differently. You can challenge the Torah, and we keep going back to the Torah, asking those hard questions, and we check in. Sometimes it's just not okay. Sometimes with a new look, we understand something more deeply. You've heard from me for many years. Don't just read the black letters, the fire. Read the white letters in between, the white fire. That's also part of your tradition, part of your voice. I want to point something out to you because we spent a lot of time studying this and you didn't talk about it, but I wanted to just point out to you that your portion does give some really powerful laws and some really wacky laws, but it also gives Jewish holidays. Yeah. And from the very first time that I remember you here, and from everything I've heard about your family, holidays are a big part of who you are. And when you come back after a holiday, whether it's Passover or Hanukkah, and something happened at home or something happened with the extended family or friends, and you light up, and a part of your identity deepened and spread. That's also part of your portion. These holidays that are fun, but even more than that, also carry values with them. And you know that, you live that, you own that, and you are proud of that. Your portion speaks about a law of how to live and the holidays by which we should guide ourselves to bring family together, but to live with values. And your portion also sets up some things around us, like the Ner Tamid, right? And here's the funny part. We've heard this before in the Torah, and we're going to hear it again in the Torah. But what is different about it this time? In the past, it was very individual. You should create a Ner Tamid. You should do these traditions. You should keep these important values. And then in the portion today, ve'ata no longer exists. The you doesn't exist, rather the we exists. We are responsible for doing these things. Hannah, today you become part of the we. And your individual challenges are valuable and important and necessary. And the way that you bring yourself to your community, not just to your friends, not just to your family, but especially to your community, is part and parcel of what makes you a Jew today. Where we began, Hannah, I am so proud of you. I'm proud of the way you challenge. I'm proud of the way that you think. I'm proud of the way that you show up. I'm proud of the pride for your legacy that you carry within, and I am so excited to keep hearing your voice and to keep learning about how you find your way with this journey. I'm going to ask the congregation to rise. You get to come with me. Can I see something? Yeah, this is backwards. That's why it keeps falling.
Glad points up.
Okay, now, come. So, these are your Sifrei Torah. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May the source of creation bless you, Hannah, and keep you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka. May HaShekhinah's light shine upon you. May Hatzor be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lach shalom, shalom, shalom. May you always feel the sacred in the world. May you always be seen as the sacred in the world. And may the sacred presence be with you, within, in your loving family, with your friends, with your community. And may that force of Hannah be the salve, the beauty, the power that we grow to see in the world. Amen.
Amen.
So Alexandra is bringing a gift to you, a prayer. Every one of our students are different. Please be seated. We chose not to bring the traditional "May your eyes shine," but rather a prayer for the journey, because you can't keep Hannah down. Lech lecha.
To a land that I will show you. Lech lecha, to a place you do not know. Lechilach, on your journey I will bless you, and you shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. Lechilach. Lechilach. And I shall make your name great. Lech lecha. And all shall praise your name. To the place that I will show you. L'simchat chayim, l'simchat chayim, l'simchat chayim, lechilach. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. Lechilach.
So today is a day of blessings, but the real most important blessing actually comes from your parents. I'm going to ask you to come out here and be joined by your parents, Eli, Ilana, as you join your child on the bima, your adult child on the bima. So you guys come this way, and it's turned around. So if you face Hannah, you will be her. Okay?
Okay. So I honor you today, Hannah Rotha, Paul Dueker. And now I will take my mask off. I honor you today for both growing into your Jewish faith with such humor and grace, and for surviving my own growth into being a parent. First you, and then Rosie, too. You weren't the only one born about 13 years ago in the family. Your mom and I also were born as parents that day. Just picture it. 13 years ago, I was a brand new baby dad. So in a way, you and I are growing up together. And I have to say, you've been a great growing up partner so far. And as we both enter our teens, I have no doubt we're in for some great surprises and adventures to come. I would like to highlight a few ways, just a few, that I have learned and grown from you as we've grown up together. But since I'm a professor, before I could figure those things out, I really needed to figure out a central theme. And frankly, you're such an amazing and surprising and completely undefinable human. It's really hard to just center on one. So I'm going to be honest, I have been freaking out a bit over the last couple of days about finding a coherent theme. At last night's service, however, I looked down at your right hand, and as usual, you gave me the theme. There it was. Well, actually, there they were, your bracelets. Oh. The first one, with a big bloody knife sticking out, said chutzpah. And the second one said rainbow. Chutzpah, rainbow? Are you kidding me? Hannah Rosa Paul Dueker? Indeed. So today, Hannah, I'm going to talk about rainbows and chutzpah. You've taught me much about both. For rainbows, when I think about rainbows, I think about surprises at the end of a storm. There's always that storm and rain first, right? It also has many colors, and it brings hope. Frankly, I thought rainbows growing up was Roy G. Biv, right? Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. You've introduced so many other different colors, I'm not even going to try to list them all. We started way back when I was a baby dad, with a very, very pink blanket. You know, the one you were so inspired by, that you loved so much, that you used your first words to call it Dada. At first, I thought it was me. I was so excited.
It wasn't.
No, it was that pink blanket. So that taught me my first lesson, humility. Yes. You also really loved pink for princesses. And that was a phase, thank goodness, for both of us. That was a phase. It's great. And it was fun, and I learned a lot about princesses. We then moved into My Little Pony. And you taught me so much about how to appreciate My Little Pony. I miss it. And in My Little Pony, I had to ask Rosie last night to make sure I was remembering it right, but Rainbow Dash was always the most fun and the most inspiring. All right, so we went from pink, then to blue, then a couple years ago into black and goth, and now we're back to pastel goth, I think, but I'm not sure. But today's theme is pink and blue, and I am trying to rock that for you. So really with the rainbow piece, though, it's amazing how you are so proud of who you are and your friends are and your family is. It's really been amazing to have you participating, expanding my own understanding of what a rainbow and a rainbow flag in particular can mean. And I really appreciate your strength in that. So for chutzpah, in my mind, chutzpah means courage and action. When you were born, you were so full of it that we could not decide on a single name for you for weeks. That's the problem with home births. You don't have that pressure to come up with that name right away. So we talked and debated. We even pulled in our friends, please suggest. And it took us several weeks. And we didn't come up with just one, but we have 4. And you wear that well. You also model for me continually fearless entry into unknown territories with your chutzpah. When Rosie arrived that night, I remember the midwife found you wandering around, just checking everything out because you had just woken up after all of the excitement.
The bloody pool.
And you were so confident. You walked right in. You crawled up onto that bed, and you were ready.
And then she cried.
Yes. And it wasn't the last time. Also, many times I have been so surprised by your chutzpah. Recently, you jumped right in and swam with the sharks. You continually talking about wanting to skydive. All those things, maybe I'm not going to be your growing up partner on, but that's okay. The other thing I want to point out is that you have a fierce devotion to chocolate and all things sweet. And for that, I blame your late grandfather, your Zadie, because as you know, when you were, I think, 3 weeks old, he gave you your first taste of chocolate ice cream.
Yep.
All right, and we're not, that's great. We don't blame him because he was just a baby granddad at that point. But it has given you immense chutzpah around getting those sweets, defending those sweets, and I often think if the world were made out of chocolate, we wouldn't be in any trouble at all. Lastly, I just want to point out that you have an amazing willingness to stand up for what is right. You have an unwavering conviction of what needs to be done around equality and justice, and my kippa's falling off. And I really even appreciate these kippas that we can plant. It's really sweet. I'm sure it's going to start sprouting right off my head. And so to end, Hannah, thank you for being such a great kid. And congratulations for now being an adult. And I guess we'll be talking about that phone of yours. Congratulations.
Fly, my little pony. I also just want to thank, for anyone who's never been to a Shabbat service, they're long. So thank you for sticking with us. I am so proud of you, Hannah. You worked so hard on this, and you are us masters of last minute everything, pulled it off, and I'm really proud of you. And I'm just excited to share a couple blessings with you, which I want to share a couple stories. There's one that I could not forget. So when you were about 4, you got really obsessed with death and learning about it. And for some reason, you got really fixated on my great aunt Dickie. And literally everywhere you went, you'd be like, why did Dickie die? Out of nowhere. Why did Dickie die? Where is Dickie? Mom, why did Dickie die? And you just asked all the time. You had a very busy life then, so at the same time, you also had City Stomp. Some people might remember the Park Slope cool band that had like the banana song and the dinosaur song with the super lead singer Kevin, who's like Mr. Park Slope dad with the skinny jeans and the whatever, Kevin. And then you also had your nanny Rebecca, who was part of a crew of Honduran evangelical Christians who